Off the cusp of doing gangbusters in regards to his fundraising, Bernie Sanders, while in Nevada, started to experience chest discomfort. Being taken to the hospital, Bernie Sanders had to have essentially a procedure. I would imagine an unexpected emergency procedure in order to deal with a blockage. Stents were put in. I believe there were 2 stents that were put in Bernie Sanders' chest in an unexpected procedure while on the campaign stump in Nevada. His campaign said he's resting okay, he's resting comfortably, and that he's for the most part okay, but for the time being, his campaign has said that they've nixed any of the upcoming campaign events that Sanders was on. We all know that Sanders has a bit of age on him. We also know that Sanders has been going gangbusters for the last several years, essentially not stopping and going at a pace and a stamina that, I have to be honest, seems to be superhuman to me. I look at this and, everybody looks at things through their own lens. As a person, I want Sanders to be perfectly okay, like I want other people to be perfectly okay. There's a slight difference in this because he's a politician and he's pushing for a certain agenda and everything else. And I believe that he's earnest in pushing for that agenda being for the benefit of a large, large number of human beings that are in this country. And as such, it makes me think that he's somewhat earnest, which makes me think or want that much more, if that makes sense, for him to be okay and intact. I can be somewhat of a cynical SOB when somebody passes or croaks and I'm like, I don't necessarily care because that person was a horrible human being, but that's definitely not the case in this situation. Sanders will be okay. And ultimately, stents are not major procedures. Putting in a stent is a minor procedure. I've had stents put in, not into my heart, into other areas, dealing with, what is it called? You know what it is. It's a graft. It's on my arm. Or after transplants. Or, for that matter, my grandmother has had stents put in her chest. My uncles has had stents put in their chest. I've had multiple family members, and it does put them out of commission for maybe a week, or at the very least, a few days. Sanders is all right and will be all right. That's the first point. Number 2, this channel wishes him well. My mom sent a message this morning saying, hey, did you hear about Sanders? You need to look it up. He seems to have had some kind of procedure. My mom likes Sanders. My wife likes Sanders. A guy at the checkout counter earlier today when I left out in order to buy a new camera because my last one broke, like Sanders. He saw my car and was like, hey, you're a Sanders supporter. Sanders has galvanized an entire population around this notion of a political revolution. And as such has gathered the support, and not just support, you can even call it the affection of all of us in this process. And all of us wish him the best. Take as much time as he needs. All of whom wishes him the best. 3, all of us wish him the best. That is not true for everyone else. And just like everything else that happens in our objective reality that we all, for the most part, can point to and agree that something took place, it means something. It has consequences. What I mean by that is, and I put a tweet out saying, oh, bad time, Sanders, or horrible timing, Sanders. I wasn't trying to be cynical of this. I looked at this as, for the most part, changing, I know it sounds weird, changing a muffler. I've had medical stuff, bad stuff, or at the very least, stuff that happened, going all the way back since I was 17 years old. At one point, I had multiple major surgeries every year, almost for a decade. I have more surgical scars than anybody that I know, and this is including people who are far, far older than I am at the various clinics that I have been at. I have a cynical point of view of this stuff. I don't look at this stuff as a major thing. I don't look at it as a life-changing thing. I look at a surgery as just basically changing a muffler, providing that there is not a disease condition behind it. And there's not. Sanders only had stents put in is something that happens to millions of Americans every year. That's not going to matter. Ultimately, in the same way that Joe Biden's age becomes a factor because Joe Biden seems to be losing his mind on one campaign stop after the next, the first thing that his campaign or the various other campaigns in the race are going to say, we would like mark my words, and they probably already did it, we would like to wish Sanders the best in his medical issues that he is currently dealing with. The reason that they're doing this is because they want to draw attention to their supporters that Bernie Sanders is having a medical issue, and they, at some point, will tie it to his age. This will not necessarily be overt, but it doesn't have to be. The fact that Sanders is having a medical condition in and of itself will be automatically tied to his age, because his age is one of those things that everybody is clearly aware of. It's not that it's right. It's that from the standpoint of a political angling, it's something that all of the campaigns want and will do, because those campaigns want to win. The media would do something similar in this and point this out, showing that Sanders had to have some kind of medical condition or some kind of heart surgery in order to deal with some sort of medical issue. They may go into the severity and everything else, but ultimately people would look at this and say, well, Sanders does have some age on him, and it would raise questions on fitness, physically, for the office. It doesn't matter that he has been running ragged for the last 2 years at an unprecedented pace. That's not going to matter. This will be used in a political hit against Sanders. Mark my words. It's multiple things are true at once. The people who support Sanders is going to look at this just for what it is. Sanders, who has a bit of age on him, had to get a blockage removed from his heart, something that millions of Americans have to do each year. It's nothing major, and within the course of a couple of days, he will likely be back on the campaign trail. That reality is going to be ignored to some degree as the notion of his age becomes a factor, and not just the notion of his age becomes a factor. He is now, I would argue, somewhat in a two-person race between him and Warren, because I think Biden is essentially at this point toast. I put on my Twitter feed, bad time Sanders. And I think that's true, but this is one of those things where multiple things are true at once. I clearly want Sanders to get better because I see him as a person, and beyond him being a person, I actually think that he's a good one. And unfortunately, he's also in a political race, which is ultimately a contest. And if you're a basketball player, Michael Jordan, breaks his ankle as he's running to try to win with a layup, then you are going to say, oh, fuck. No, I don't want Jordan hurt. No, I don't want him injured. And yes, at the same token, it is bad timing. I'm going to put the article at the bottom from Reuters. What's important here is that Sanders is okay. He's healthy, relatively so. I mean, after all, he just had to have a surgery in order to get a stent put in order to get rid of the blockage. But for all intents and purposes, he's doing all right. That is the thing that's more important than anything else. Thanks all. I'll be back more.